Welcome to vKind Connects, your connection to everything vegan. My name is Allyson Spellman, and thank you so much for being here today. We have an exciting interview planned for you. Laurie Olivier from LIFEQ is joining us today. So let's welcome in, of course, Laurie. Thank you so much for joining us.
Such a pleasure, Allyson, also to meet with you in person. Heard a lot about this channel and very excited and glad to have this interview.
Absolutely. And I know everyone is looking forward to learning more about LIFEQ. So Laurie, if you could kindly let us know, what is LIFEQ? And I'm so interested in learning what inspired this company, what inspired this idea within you?
Sure. LIFEQ is a company which help people to age well. Is that a good summary? For us, there's so much in technology available today for humans to get a better sense of their own physiologies, to optimize health, and on a high level to translate what I think we have today in the US. Rather, I don't think we have healthcare; we have sick care. And to translate sick care into healthcare. And I think from that point of view, another way maybe to describe what health that LIFEQ wants to achieve is to make sure that if you have a good lifespan, that you also have a good health span. And I think, for us, having nutrition at the center of this is, of course, quite important. And I know this is a core topic of this interview and channel. So happy to give you a little bit of a backdrop as to how the idea came up for the company. Is that what I just try to guess what you would like me to comment upon?
Yeah, a little bit about what is LIFEQ. And I know what it is, and it's such extraordinary technology, Laurie. And I love what you just shared that so much is almost focused on sick care. And here you were inspired to really change that paradigm. And what was it that inspired this idea in the first place, that you said, you know what, there's nothing else out there like this, I need to do something about it?
The idea of the company started, and I think that's we'll put it in context. As a venture capitalist, I've been asked from time to time to evaluate startups at conferences and business plan competitions. And in 2009, Emory University, which as you know is one of the leading healthcare-focused universities in the USA, sponsored a national biotech business plan competition in South Africa, of all places, and asked me to serve as a judge. And after handing in their PhD thesis the night before, I met my two co-founders, Drs. Franco Dupree and Marianne Conradi. Both of them are computational systems biologists, and I think that's why it's so important to describe this meeting. They actually presented, Allyson, a small device which you could breathe through, which calculate your resting metabolic rate, which then helps you to understand at any point in time how many carbs, how many fats, how many proteins you are burning at that specific point in time. But what was interesting of that device is that it actually did not measure things directly. It calculated a lot of biometrics. So this concept of using systems biology, which is the DNA of LIFEQ, where you look at the human body as a total system, and you could actually look at a part of the system and calculate what's happening in the other side of the system. And I think that really intrigued me and said, well, that's quite interesting. This was 2009. There was no such thing as a smartwatch or a health band or anything like that available. And my sense was, well, what if one actually measures something non-invasively, like heart rate, breathing rate, and things like that, and you calculate what you otherwise would have measured invasively through blood tests and things like that. So the whole concept of LIFEQ is to provide digital versions of humans to model what's happening inside your physiology, and therefore provide you like some of these new electric cars. You have a sort of a dashboard of what's happening inside the engine. In this case, the engine being the human body. So a different way to say what LIFEQ does, it provides a lens onto the human body, and it provides you a real-time sense whether things are operating well or maybe not so well. Should I do something? Should I not do something? So that gives you a little bit of a sense of the core technology. So of course, a very key component is how do you look into the body and actually get that information? And there we leverage everyday wearables. And that was a core concept of LIFEQ, that we didn't want to come with a specialized wearable like many other people will try, with a very specific biometric which it measure or something. Because if you really want to impact society at large, you have to really impact where the flow goes. And we wanted to sort of like position ourselves with the flow, but it's much more difficult, because the type of things which we actually, the information which we harvest from the human body is at a little bit of a different level than the consumer electronics harvesting of heart rate and breathing rate and things like that. We look at much more detailed metrics so that we can really unpack a lot of your different systems in your body, your cardiovascular system, your hepatic system, respiratory system, so that we really have a 360-degree view of your health, but in a way that you can understand how these systems interrelate, and even more important, in a way that you can actually impact your behaviors, so which include nutrition, exercise, activity, all the normal things, but to do it in the right way for your body. Because Allyson, your body and my body is, are different.
That's right. It's not one size fits all, literally.
And therefore, you have the power of digital technology to actually personalize that. And I think from that perspective, we are in the position, as more and more people wearing these wearables, to actually get a very personalized view as to what works well for them versus what works well for you. And I think this is something which you will see all through the discussion around LIFEQ, is to have personalized answers.
I love that. It's just so fascinating because, there is no other machine, so to speak, as complex as a human body. And as you're saying, every single one of us so unique, so different, our makeup, our genetics, how we're currently living. And I think it's so amazing how targeted LIFEQ can really be, and not only just targeted, but then what can you do about it, right? What can you do to make those changes that are going to affect so much? And Laurie, I know, we're talking about a health journey, really moving from as you were saying, the sick care to true health care. And I know that you had a vegan journey that's very connected to the inspiration and truly the birth of LIFEQ. What was that vegan journey, and how did it impact the whole concept of LIFEQ?
Yeah. So full disclaimer, when we started out with LIFEQ, I was not a vegan. And I came from South Africa, and I grew up in a fairly poor environment on the Botswana border, and therefore I think it's important for people to know that actually sometimes to be a vegan is somewhat of a privilege, because people in more poor and difficult situations do not always have either the education or the exposure to that choice. And my wife and I grew up in fairly basic environments. It's sort of like the 1960s and 70s when all these chemicals were sprayed on crops and things. And my wife was always telling me, she's sitting on the tractor, and then on the crop DDT was sprayed and all the different things, and the fumes come over. And guess what? Both of us developed cancer. And I think that was
Wow.
so for us the interesting experience was, and that's how we got in touch with veganism, or with to become a vegan. My wife was diagnosed with breast cancer, and when she had a consultation with a nutritionist in terms of what is the best diet during chemo, and the nutritionist, which was actually not a vegan either, suggested whole foods, plant-based. And the whole idea was there that if you're under chemo, your system is under severe pressure, and therefore you want to help it as much as you can. And the one which, from the immune point of view, is the best is actually the plant-based diet. So that was sort of like 5 years ago. And she started with that. And of course, being in a family, we both, you can't be one vegan, the other one not vegan. It was difficult. So we started, and I also started with a vegan diet. And fortunately so, because I didn't even know at that time that I also had cancer, prostate cancer. And the nice part of being vegan is that it actually slowed down the sort of progression of cancer as well. And we could see it also enabled me to go through a different type of therapy, which ablation, which is not sort of chemo or radiation or whatever, to deal with it, just because my body was actually being helped by eating the right things. And so we got actually on that journey, and that really led to what became a key theme in LIFEQ, and that is in terms of aging well. And the key thing for us was, there's a lot of people which do great sort of work with nutraceuticals and pharmaceuticals in helping people to age well. But for us, it's a little bit like having liposuction, but you still eat bad. You have to have a lifestyle which actually move towards the aim of aging well. And LIFEQ provides you with that insight to, and on a personalized way, to tell you exactly what can you do, how much, when, in terms of exercise, in terms of activity, even how you sleep, and how it would actually impact your aging. So I think from that perspective, nutrition is core, and that's one of the things which we hope in future to unpack even more in LIFEQ. As I mentioned to you, it so happens that we started with a device which analyzes the uptake of nutrients, and well, full circle, I think that's where we want to, that's the key part which we still also have to unpack.
Oh, so that's some of the future then that you're with LIFEQ, kind of thinking through all the nutrients. Is that, what we can expect to see in the future with it?
There's, of course, lots of different initiatives of people unpacking aging, but it basically look at those enzymes or proteins which on DNA level help to repair what cause aging. And as we get older, there's your DNA, basically there's some breakages in that. And then secondly, what is quite interesting is there are a concept which are being popularized these days by a very popular professor also at Harvard, David Sinclair, which talk about the epigenome, which basically it's the part which controls your genome, or your DNA. It's sort of a programming, if you like, and let's think of your DNA to be the computer. And as you get old, that epigenome have changes in the information, how it goes about. You use the analogy of liking the old CD disc, and you have a reader, and the reader reads wrong, or programs wrong. I think more like a programmable memory, but that's a different way. Important thing which I want to mention on the connection of the dots with nutrition is some of those enzymes are very much driven by nutrition. Your body is really what you eat. Ultimately, it defines you. And if you really look at getting older, is if you can actually significantly, and we can prove it, dial back your biological age if you not only exercise well and have the right activity and sleep well, but also eat well. And therefore, there's some very much specific focus on a couple of longevity proteins or enzymes. And you will find that plant-based diets actually connects with those. And I think that's where also some of the other things which we do in LIFEQ, where we look at exercise and activity. So we can tell you, for instance, Allyson, if you change your exercise regime and exercise on average 3 minutes longer per week in this heart rate band, or if you change the timing of your exercise in the day because it impacts on your sleep and a lot of other various things, we have models which can calculate exactly how many biological days you save. And if you then combine that with the power of nutrition, I think it's a very powerful combination for all of us to have much, longer quality life.
Absolutely. And this really is, to me, just the absolute LIFEQ is the future of preventive medicine. I mean, really, because you know what I love, as you were sharing before, liposuction, right? Like you get that procedure done, but that's not going to change everything. It's a whole, like everything needs to be connected to work together. We can't just focus on one portion and not the other portion. And what I love about LIFEQ is just hearing how everything is all connected. So it really isn't a Band-Aid solution. What we're making here is true health care, preventative, so you can live your absolute best life and live at that optimum health that so many of us search for, but we don't know how to get there. And this is really ultimately the roadmap to help you get there. And I love that.
You have to make it easy. You have to make it intuitive. And the very important thing is you have to make sure that it's measurable and that you can see the progress in real time. Because otherwise people won't be engaged, they won't stay connected. And I think, Allyson, that's a very important component. So what we do is we have actually looked at, it's quite interesting, we've looked at models which link, of course, all these all-cause mortality studies where they connect the dots. Actually, they call it all-cause mortality studies, but it's more correlations than causal in my mind anyway. But they look at people's lifespans until death, and then they look back and say, listen, what are the characteristics of that person which lived as long? And then they started through a very sophisticated means connect the dots between different things which in your cardiovascular system, your respiratory system, in terms of how you sleep, in terms of fitness and activity. And then they can actually project on that how old you can get. But these are all based on models. It's correlations. Then in parallel, there are other people which work on molecular level, where they actually look, it's called DNA methylation, is on how methyls are going onto the DNA and actually age cells, etc. And what LIFEQ do is we bring these two worlds together. So what we do is we actually look at those models. But here's the interesting thing. Because we look at those models, which is very much behavioral, we can actually give you behavioral things. We can tell you, and I know that you are an animal lover, Allyson, but if you're
very much so.
And our cats sleep with us on the bed, but it can actually show that if you have just a X percentage change in the disturbances during your sleep, we can actually connect the dots right through to aging. So we can actually help you very easily, Allyson, to just change your daily health lifestyle habits and how that could actually impact on aging and give you a real-time feedback on the progress, so that you have a clock in front of you and you can every day see have I dialed my clock back or to the, forward?
I love that too, because you can really market not only on how you feel, you're going to feel that, but there's something so rewarding in truly being able to see that kind of growth as well and to really market. Again, I think it's so important. And, Laurie, I was wondering too, how can our viewers, because it's such an innovative idea and it's so important to the health of all of us together. We're all connected. Think about, as I said, this is really the future of preventative medicine. How, if we are all doing this and striving and living our best, how that can impact us as a society. How do you feel about that? Why is this so important to a society as a whole?
Well, first of all, an individual will never keep up on Rory's own. You have to do this as part of the society. So part of the things which we do is, for instance, gamification of what we do. So you have to be able to talk about it. You have, my wife and I have the habit in the morning when we wake up, we look at our sleep profile and breakdowns, etc. And we have a little bit of a competition as to who slept better, whatever.
Love it. It's a healthy, good competition, right? I love it. Yes.
You have to bring it down on that level, Allyson. You have to make things fun. So a big part of what we do is to decode very complicated science into bite sizes that you and me can live every day, just with a regular watch, which is affordable, and which can help you not only, by the way, living healthier and doing the smart choices, but which can also be a very smart watchdog on your arm to warn you if things are moving in the wrong direction, or to even warn you more when an acute disease is in onset. Think of it like if you have a battleship with a radar and you see all the enemy aircraft coming in. You want to have something to say, well, when is that aircraft coming in? And I think, for instance, now in times like COVID, it becomes so important that we have to take good care of our bodies, because it's quite clear where the virus has its biggest impact are not necessarily, it's not necessarily all genetic. It actually looks at if people didn't behave well with their bodies, if they don't take good care of their bodies, they are the victims more so than others. And if you really look at the outcomes here, so you have to give people the insight whether I'm doing the right things and the tools to actually do the right things, and make it easy and make it sort of like commonplace every day. So, and technology has it, and you can offer it, and people are wearing watches. I mean, in the US, how many people are wearing already, smart watches as well? And by the way, the sensors which we are evolving will not only be on your wrist, there's other places as well, because not everyone wants to wear something on their wrist. But I think that the important point here is that you have to have something which is like a small brain, keep on sniffing inside your body and say, what's happening? And at the same token, you have to have something else to tell you, what can I do to optimize health even further? Forget about whether something is actually attacking me, but what can I do just to get more quality out of life?
That's right. More quality of life. And I love what you just said too, because it not only marks your growth, your health, your overall health, but it does really give you those warning signs if something is going the other way. So you're not all of a sudden thrown off, hopefully there's absolutely no surprises, but you have that warning. So this is where I need to make the changes. This is what I see coming. So it really is, again, such a huge, amazing device to protect and to really create the future that you want with your body, which is so important, because at the end of the day, I always say you can have everything, but if you don't have your health and wellness, what kind of life are you really living? Because that affects absolutely everything. At the end of the day, we always have this, and this is ours, and this is our responsibility. It's truly a blessing, and this is a blessing to be able to have a device to help us live our ultimate life and help us along the way. Now, I know, Laurie, our viewers, I'm sure, are just so incredibly inspired by this, by LIFEQ. What can they do to help support you and support this amazing product?
Exactly what you've just said is help spread the message that it's your responsibility, that your body is yours, and the system is not. The system can take care of you somewhat, but think of COVID. If you have not taken good care of your body, you're more vulnerable in the process.
Yes.
And I don't always want to have a scare tactic there. There's also the other side. Just think of, people are getting older. I mean, lifespans are increasing. If you're older, you want to actually spend quality time with your kids and your grandkids and great-grandkids, which I think is totally possible. I think there's a lot of comments out there that people which are going to live up. I think the oldest person in the world in the moment, officially reported something like 121, 122 about. And then the question is, do I want to get that old? The other question you have to say, well, but what? If I have the energy and the body and the excitement at the age of 100, which somebody else have at the age of 50, would I want that? And I think it's totally doable. And I think what you just want to make it easy for people to get there. And whereas technology, by the way, is a big cause of us moving in the vortex of getting sick because you sit too much in front of the computer, you're not out there, you're not active enough, etc. Technology can also be part of the solution. And I think technology has responsibility to be part of the solution. And so what one have to do is people have to just get that understanding. It's my responsibility, and I have to do something about it. And yes, there are affordable tools out there, to achieve those ends.
Yes. And I want to thank you. And I think we all want to thank you for using technology because, as you said, it is a responsibility. And you have used this and you've used this idea. It started with your own journey. And I always think like the most impactful inventions, so to speak, are those that are really stirred from an experience. And you took that experience and now you're sharing it with other people. And I love it too, because our bodies are a responsibility. But Laurie, just as you were sharing, I really want everyone to think about that. How, if you're living at your optimum health, what that can mean for the others in your life as well. Are you going to be a more engaged spouse, a more active mother, grandmother, whatever your roles are, or even, more connected as a business owner, more inspired as a business owner? Because we all know when we are operating at a lower health level, how that affects everything in our life. So think about those changes and what they can really mean to you specifically in your life, because I'm telling you, it is such a game changer. Laurie, this has been so much fun to be able to learn more. And again, really thank you for using your own journey like that to not only make a difference for you and your wife, but now for countless others. And I hope numerous more ahead. I do want to just ask you kind of a fun question, actually. Since you are vegan, if you could eat one thing for the rest of your life, what would it be? That's probably one of the harder questions to answer, right?
Well, the one thing which we focus at home is on plant-based protein, because that's the one which you have to focus. The rest just come by itself. So I would say legumes. I would say beans and all. For me, there's so much health benefits in. There's a lot of studies which say you can't just eat one food, but it, if you think of soybeans, for instance, it has all 9 amino acids, I believe. It has folate, antioxidants. There's a lot of minerals, vitamins in there, etc. So if I had to choose, it will probably be something in the legume direction, and because then I know you also have some fiber in there. So there's some good things which I think it control appetite, your gut health is improved, fatty liver, it helps with your glucose metabolism, reduce the risk of cancer, promote heart health. But of course, if you really ask me, I would like to have the smoothie and put a lot of things in the smoothie, which include berries and kale and all those other nice greens. And by the way, this one thing very important which I want to say, I forgot to stress it, but one of the most important things in vegan diets is please go organic and go for the foods which have been crafted under stress. So if you think of things in big hot houses, I'm not so fond of them. If it's something which grew naturally, because there is a concept which I think David Sinclair mentioned, xenohormesis, which basically means that if you take those cells which have been under stress and you eat them, and they actually they go in being taken up in your body, in that case, you will actually find that they help anti-aging, because they are already working on some of the anti-aging genes. So yeah, I think there's so much in a plant-based diet which you could use to eat and live longer, live healthier, and making the best out of living, and mean a lot for the people around you. As you say, have lots of energy, less fatigue, strong immunity, and let's win this virus.
That is right. Exactly. I love this because, again, to me, LIFEQ is the future of preventive medicine, no doubt. And I love it too because it's like finding a fountain of youth. But what's best about this is not the fountain of youth. Of course, you're outside. It's going to be a reflection, but it's the true fountain of youth from the inside out. And that's truly where it counts. It's so important. So Laurie, thank you. Thank you for, again, following your heart, following your vision, seeing this through. I want everyone out there to support this. This is so much bigger. It's even bigger just than us. It's big for us as a society coming together, working together, and living our best life. So thank you so much, Laurie, for joining us.
Thanks a lot, Allyson. It's such a pleasure to be part of that mission.
Absolutely. We're incredibly grateful. So friends, that's a wrap for this episode of Connects. Be sure to join us next time when we connect you with the latest and greatest vegan entrepreneurs. And be sure to subscribe as well to our YouTube channel for all the resources from today's Connect. You can find them in the description below.